Hello my lovelies, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my lovely conservatory where I do all of my crafting. Say hello to Glory, he's joining me today, and today I thought we would make a beautiful bracelet. So take a look at this, isn't that gorgeous? So today we're going to have a look at how to make this little beauty and the links you can use for bracelets, necklaces and indeed for earrings and anything else that you like. So come and join me at my table and we'll make this. Okay, lovely people, let's have a look at how to make these gorgeous links to make this beautiful bracelet. Isn't that gorgeous? This one actually I made a little while ago. If you want to learn how to make that, then I'll put the link up here somewhere. But we're going to learn how to make these links. Like I said in the intro, you can use these to make necklaces, bracelets, earrings, that kind of thing. So these are the links. I did actually use aluminium wire when I was coming up with the shape of it because it's super bendy and really affordable. So a little tip for you, instead of using up all your copper wire to work out how to make things, get some aluminium, really cheap and affordable. Right, so let's get going. You're going to need some, I'll put a list of materials all down in the description box, but I'll go through what you're going to need whilst we're going. So I'm using 16 gauge 1.25 millimeter wire to make these links, which are gorgeous, I think. And you're going to need, that's not my usual ruler, is it? Where's my usual ruler? There it is. Let's have some consistency, Sammy. You're going to need about 12 centimeters for each one. So I'm just going to cut a couple of lengths of wire. So each one will make each one takes 12 centimeters, which for you guys who use inches, I will tell you in a second. You will have a tiny bit of waste when we're cutting off, but not a huge amount. So for you guys that use inches, it's around about 4 3/4 inches per link. Yeah. Right. So let's come in and start now. It's not an exact science, isn't this? So you will, when you're making them, try and do the same sort of like a production line, so you get the same sort of movement in the wrist and that kind of thing, which will help you to make consistent shapes. So what I'm going to do is take my round nose pliers, don't have to be any particular size. All you need to do is just grip the wire in the center at the bottom of your plier. We're not going to be directly winding the wire around the shape of the plier, but we are going to be bending the wire around into a shape, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So in the center of the wire, taking your wire, as you can see, I'm bending it around, but not directly around the plier, because what we want to do is to make that kind of shape. Yeah. And then we're going to do the same with the other side. So bring it around like so. So not exactly around the actual plier itself, but enough to make a swirly sort of shape like this. Okay, so I'll just do another one. It does help if you do this all all at the same time, like a production line type of thing. So bend it around the shape. Like this. And then around the shape. Like this. Now we are going to be putting 6 millimeter beads in these shapes. So let's have a look at how they look against each other. Ooh, all interlocking. All right, so they're kind of pretty much almost the same shape, aren't they? So this is what you want. You want, do a few of those. How many have I got here? This bracelet measures 16.5 centimeters, which is 6.5 inches. And each one of the links themselves is about 1 inch long, all right? So you can work out, how many you need for your purposes. So this is what we have. So make a few of those. All right, so the next thing we want to do is to shape this little part up here. So as you can see, that's what it looks like. So this little part here, we want to bend it around. So I'm holding it in the middle here. Now I've marked my pliers so that all these loops are consistent. So I'm just going to hold it like that and bring the wire around so that it sits over the top like that. Can you see that? So I'll do that again. Looks a little bit like an ampersand, but it's not. Yeah. So with this blobby thing facing upwards, place your plier in, cross them over happily at this stage, it's fine. Wind it around until it fits like that. All right, so you've got all of those going on. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, just straighten that up slightly. So can you see here how we've got this straight bit of wire? We're going to be bending that wire underneath. Can you see? Underneath. Yeah, so what you want to do is to cut that about 1 centimetre long. So you've only got a little tiny bit of waste. And then very carefully, what we want to do is to bend this guy underneath. So very carefully. And you will have to do it carefully because obviously it's quite, it's a bit thicker gauge is this. Now, whilst it makes for beautiful, sturdy links and such, it's slightly harder to work in the hand. So, you know, just keep going and just do it very carefully, very gently. If it's just a tad too long, which that is just slightly, give it a snip, because what we want to do is, if you can see, we want to get that end fitting onto this loop here. Now then, when you get to this stage, get out your nylon jaw plier, which is, where are you? I had to stop the video there so I could find my nylon pliers, which were hiding. So just so you don't mark the front, because this is going to constitute the front of your piece, just very carefully squidge that wire down. All right, so can you see here? It's now touching the back of here. Yeah. So just give it another little squidge down. If you're happy with that, just fettle it a little bit if you need to. Yeah, so you can't see the back of it underneath. Does that make sense? So I'll just do that with this one. Straighten it up and just, oops, let's just snip it around here. And then come in and just start to very gently bend that wire. And then when you get to this stage, come in with your nylon jaw. Just means that you're not marking your wire. There we are. Can you see? So this is what we have at this stage. I'm just going to turn my fan off. I'm not sure if you can hear it in the background. Maybe you can. Maybe you can hear it in the background, but hey ho, it's quite warm in here. So this is what we have now. Okay, so as you can see, these shapes are pretty consistent. You know, as with all things that are handmade, they don't have to be like, you know, off a production line. So I'm happy that they look pretty much the same. Next thing we want to do is just bend the wire so that the length of wire, the long part here, just ever so slightly touches, you know, this bottom part here. Then we're going to measure 2 centimetres from the loop here, and we're going to measure 2 centimetres along the straight of wire. So as you can see, I'm going to cut here So again, tiny little bit of waste, but you know what, we can cope with that. I don't know if you guys keep your little waste pieces to do other things with, but you know, you can if you want. So again, 2 centimeters, give or take. Get rid of the ruler again. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these if you're going to have, you know, the same shape, the same size as me, making a necklace, you know, do however many you like. The next stage now is to bring in our round nose plier. And again, I'm going to make this little scroll, this part here. So I start that off around about here and start to make a little like spirally type thing, like a scroll. But to make this nice and round, I'm just going to snip off a couple, maybe 3 or 4 millimeters off each one. And that just helps keep the circular form of your little scroll, your little spiral here. And with the movement of the wrist, it's going to move it around until it touches like this. You see that? I'll do the other one. Just a round movement of the wrist until it touches. Okay, so then, you know, just put them against each other and just see whether, you know, they all sort of look pretty similar, which they do. I mean, that one's just slightly wider, doesn't matter. I'm happy with that. Okay, so that's the first stage. So get all of those made and then we'll come back and we'll do some wrapping of beads and some hammering. Right, we're back. So hopefully you have made enough of these little guys that you need for whatever project you're doing. And I'm just going to very quickly not hammer them specifically to show you on screen, but show you where I hammer mine for the best stability. Yeah. Basically, I hammer mine wherever there's a loop. So I hammer it here, I hammer it around here, I hammer it here, and then also here. All right, so that just gives it a little bit of stability so that it doesn't bend too much. So I'll come back when I've done that, because you don't need to see me doing it on screen because it's too loud. So I'll see you in a few. So here's our link, and as you can see, I have hammered it a little bit, if you can see, in the arc places, the loop sort of places, so that it gives it some stability. If your wire, you know, separates a little bit, just come back in, and that's what you should be left with. Isn't that pretty? Right, so let's get, I mean, you know what, if you wanted to, you could just use these. I bend mine into a little bit of an arc with my fingers if I'm using them for bracelets. It just, you know, helps the bracelet move around, the pieces move around the wrist a little bit. Obviously, if you're using them for earrings, you can keep them straight. It's up to you. Do whatever you please. So the next part is you can use these and link them all up without the beads inside. But we like beads, don't we? So let's have a look at doing some beads. So I'm going to use my 0.4 26 gauge. And I like to use a little bit more than I need when I'm wrapping beads, mainly because I think you get a little bit more, you know, of a purchase, you know, a bit more of a handle onto things, you know, when you are wrapping. Okay, so I'll just go and get my beads and we'll have a play. Right, we're back with the beads. I was just trying to find my other supply. These are 6mm and these are beautiful Swarovski pearls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wind the wire around here 4 or 5 times. Just going to change my glasses to my readers, you know, spot the age. So I'm going to pop my wire through. Let's move all this out of the way. And I'm going to wind the wire around a couple of times just to get things going. If you're like me and you have slightly arthritic fingers, just come in with your pliers. Yeah, much easier than trying to faff around, you know. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5, just because I think you know, the 5 looks really nice. Don't worry about all of this, we'll sort that out later. So here is our 5 wraps. And if you wanted to come in with your pliers, you can do. Just give things a little bit of a smush up. I tend to just come in and give it a squidge at this stage, just to make sure that everyone's happy. And that's now underneath. So I'm going to pass that through and come over the top like that. Can you see that? So that's come over, through and over the top. So I'm just going to put my bead on now. Where are your little hole? There you go. I'm going to place my bead here. And then I'm going to do 5 wraps. Just to secure the bead in place. So make sure everything's nice and tight. Now, if you've done this well, you'll find that the bead will sit just inside your little loop here. If, like me, you've not made them hugely consistent, it doesn't matter. So, you know, your bead will sit just slightly on top of the frame. A little bit too much there, but it doesn't matter to me. I'll snip that off and then just give this a bit of a squeege and then burnish it down. Okay, and then again, take this little one off. Now I cut mine in the middle so that when I come to squish it down, I can squish that down just in the center of these 2 pieces of wire so that it doesn't irritate the skin. There we go, so that's the first bead. Let's do the second one. So the second one, I start my wrap here, so wire through a couple of times just to anchor it in, like this. So that's 1, 2, and then up for 3. I hope you enjoy making these. Absolutely gorgeous. I think so anyway. And like I say, you know, it all just comes from just sitting down and just getting your materials out and just having a look at what you can come up with. There we have our 5 wraps, and then back up and across. Yeah, so I'm going to be wrapping my wire in this spare section here in between the 2. So situate your wrapping, yeah, to make it look nice and neat. Can you see what I mean? Hopefully I'm in camera. Often I know I'm not. Try it yourself, it's difficult. It's sometimes difficult. So as you can see here, this is just sitting on top of that. Now then, this is where your pliers come in. Because I've made this a little bit small, these things happen. It is what it is. Keep your mistakes in. You can widen it a little bit by popping your pliers in and then just opening the jaws. And then there you go, that's better, isn't it? Just open the jaws slightly. Yeah, and then it fits in a little better. So I'm going to come in through, use my pliers, and then I'm going to come up. As you see, there's a little gap just in between. So I'm just going to come in with my wire just through that little gap there. Give it a tug, back through, give it a pull, back up. You should get 5 wraps through here. If you don't fret about it. That's crossed over, but you know, off camera I would sort that out, but you know, let's just keep going. Try not to cross your wrapping wires. It doesn't matter if you do. It doesn't bother me, that kind of thing, but try and keep them uncrossed if you can. Just makes it look a little neater, but hey ho, I like to keep these little foibles, these little faux pas in. Right, so there we have it. Okay, so just make sure everything's nice and squished in and tight and happy. Can you see there? I've just crossed the wires over at the back, but it doesn't matter. Oops, I'm not too fussed, are you? Doesn't matter to me. That's on the back side, and just give that a squidge down. So they're all happy. And then just chop that one as well. And then, there we go. Just squeeze that one down, make sure everyone's nice and clean and happy and that there are no sharp edges. And that, my friends, is your little component, your little unit, your little happy little beaded link. Isn't that gorgeous? So then all you need to do is to attach. So I've attached them on here with 4mm jump rings, like so. So you come in, basically. Now I've made these out of 1.5 again, you know, 16 gauge. And just pop these through. Really, really easy. And then just close those up. Now I've used 2 on each one just because I think it suits the design of this particular bracelet. You can use whatever you like, 2 or 3 or whatever. Whatever fits, however you like it. You see that? So here we have our gorgeous, gorgeous links on a bracelet. And then basically you can make whatever clasp you like. You know, I've got clasp tutorial on my channel, which I'll link up here somewhere. You can use whatever clasp you want. And look at that, isn't that the most beautiful bracelet? Gorgeous, gorgeous. Have fun making it and let me know in the comments how you get along. And if you're interested in this particular bracelet, I will leave a link in my description box. And you can make this one as well, because I think those go really well together, don't you? Okay, lovelies, I'll see you next week for our next video, and I hope you have a really, really lovely week. Bye for now.